Welcome to Rev Up Your Potential with Hilda Gann, the stories about entrepreneurs, business leaders, and HR professionals and their successes and struggles along their journey. In this podcast, we also discuss the HR challenges that people face and the tips and strategies that have helped them. If you love to learn through storytelling, join us. Hilda Gann, Rev Up Your Potential. Thanks for joining us today. My guest is Opal Rowe. She recently found herself craving a patty. And despite the abundance of patties in Toronto, she wasn't able to find a wholesome patty that she could enjoy as a meal with a glass of wine. Well, Opal's not one of those people to just sort of sit and wish and think. She decided that she would get into the business of creating patties, even though she'd never been in this business before. So it's really interesting. I know Opal from a past life where she owned and operated her own home care company, and it received multiple awards as a small business. So to Opal, service is a way of life, and it's a major theme in her off hours. So despite the hectic pace of operating a company, she does find time to volunteer. I am looking forward to our conversation. Welcome, Opal.
Thank you. Thank you, Hilda. So lovely to be here with you today.
Well, I remember the early days when you were in home care and we would have these conversations, and I could feel your passion and your love for what you did. And I know you'd sold the business at one point and was doing various things. And then up comes this idea, Stush Patties. Now,
Yes.
I see you have a t-shirt. We'll get to that later. Let's talk about Stush and that journey. Like you said,
Yes.
one day I couldn't find it. I had to do it. Talk to us in more detail about that.
Yeah. So one night I came home from work, and when you come home from work late sometimes, and you don't want something too heavy, you just want something warm and comforting. And so I realized it's really a Jamaican patty I wanted. But I didn't have the patty in my freezer, and I couldn't think which patty was going to satisfy this need. And so I went searching for this patty so I could have it in my freezer for when I want it the next time. I couldn't find it. I'm familiar with Jamaican patties. There are lots of Jamaican patties around, but usually they're a snack type, or like a hot dog snack on the go, that sort of thing. But I wanted something a little bit more wholesome with real meat, and of course enveloped in fine pastry that we Jamaican patties are made from. And so after searching and searching and searching, I decided I'm going to make one. And for me, it was not just making one for myself for when I need it, because I realized that clearly this was missing in the market. And the more I thought about it, is the more I realized that as other fast foods have evolved, you could go to the party and you get samosas, or you would get tacos or something like that. You never really saw patties at a party or anything of the sort. Yet everybody knows patties. And so I thought this was opportune time to evolve the patty to the next stage where it becomes more widely accepted at functions, at events, and people could have them for dinner as well.
I'm definitely getting some for my daughter because she always says, "Mom, what can I have for a snack?" And I want to be able to give her something wholesome. So I'm sure she's going to love this idea of the patties. What kind of patties do you have? I see pictures back there.
Yes, yes. So patties are traditionally beef made from beef, right? Um, as time has evolved on a smaller scale, you've had other types of filling, but not in the retail space. So we have beef patties, we have jerk chicken. Jerk is such authentic Jamaican food. And I thought, what better way to marry two authentic Jamaican foods,
Yeah.
jerk and patties? So we have a jerk chicken patty. Patties are typically also made from beef suet or lard, and therefore the crust is not vegan. And so the traditional patties are not vegan, but of course, years later on, we have veganism. And so I also wanted to make a patty for vegans as well. So our crust is vegan, and we have two vegan options in retail market, a vegetable and root vegetables, as well as a vegan jerk chicken, so to speak.
So you're telling me you've created this market, you've elevated the Jamaican patty to a level where, you know, it has a bit more sophistication and desire to, to bring it on at parties.
Yes.
And yet you had no experience in
Absolutely none. I
in
had
this.
never even seen patties made before.
So first, let's take a look at your T-shirt there. It says "Pinky Popping Patties." Tell us about your T-shirt, and then let's dive into the industry and how you became knowledgeable and successful.
Well, Pinky Poppins is we're just playing with things, right? I mean, patties are is a fun food, and so I wanted to keep up with that, making it fun, right? Stush is a Jamaican word, and it kind of means in today's language bougie. And usually, some people see it as meaning stuck up, that sort of thing. But really, we would, for example, say the queen is stush because she does things properly. And for us, we're saying, okay, so we're making patties properly by using good ingredients, but we don't want it to be either so stuck up either. So we want to make fun of it. So by using stush, which is a Jamaican word, we're again extending the Jamaican legacy and extending a word that is not known in Canada and portraying that word. And also to further play with stush, the queen usually we know talk about drinking tea with your pinky popping and so forth. So we decided to play with that as well and say you can have your patties with your pinky popping.
I, one of the things I love about being a business owner is you get to be a little bit creative, right? And those little subtle things that you do to kind of elevate your brand. So I love what you're saying about that. And it recalls my mind of the journey that I've had when my husband and I created our own company and, finding our values. Our company was named iTrans. And we thought,
Yeah.
okay, we need to have values. And so our values were three I's, as in I trans. So insight, integrity, innovation. And then we jokingly said, well, our competitors would say we're incorrigible, incompetent, and imbeciles or something, right? You have fun with this kind of stuff, and that's some of the joys of building a business. So let's talk about your business, like from novice, literally novice in this industry. How did you grow your company? Because when did it start? When did you start Stush?
Well, we actually launched last year and we basically started thinking of testing, piloting just as COVID broke. So
Yeah.
we just basically used the opportunity to pilot to see if there's going to be a demand because, as we said, we're bringing out something new, something different. And is there going to be a demand for this? So we used that opportunity to pilot. And once a pilot was completed, like 6 months later, then we paused, determined how we're going to move forward, and launched last year.
Okay, so tell us about your journey.
Well, the first part of the journey was learning to make patties. Like I said, I'd never even seen patties made before. So in Jamaica, you just go to a patty shop and you buy a patty. No thought is given as to what is in there. There's no ingredients there. It's like a hot dog, right? If there's no ingredients, there's nothing. You just go and you buy it and so forth. And so I had never seen them made before, and so I had to learn. I know basically it's made of filling and pastry. Filling is cooking. I'm relatively good. I'm a relatively good cook. Pastry, never really worked with pastry. In Jamaica, we work more with batter. So we work more with things like cakes and puddings and so forth. Tarts and pies are something that the average Jamaican do not make. We don't have apple pies, we don't do tarts, etc. And so, of course, a patty is distinct from any other handheld food similar due to its pastry. It's a flaky pastry, not a very popular type of pastry. And for me, it was learning that it was not only making a pastry, but if it doesn't pass the flake test, it's not a patty. It could be anything else, not a patty. And so that was a challenge for me. And I remember when I told my friends, it's like, oh, well, the pastry is going to be your challenge. And so it was because it's not a matter of just going on and finding a recipe or something of the sort. Like I said, for me, I started and I wanted it to be a vegan crust and I wanted it my own. So I had to find a way of understanding butters, understanding flours before. I suppose, like most people, you think flour is flour. You buy flour in the supermarket and that's it. So I had to understand that there are different types of flours. They have different results, the different fats, be it butter or suet or lard or margarine. They have different components, different properties, give you different results. And so it was a whole learning process for me and practicing and practicing and practicing and practicing.
So this was all done in your home kitchen testing this
Yes,
out
the practice
at the
spartans.
beginning. At the beginning.
Yes, of course, of course. It was a match. Yeah, there was a lot of learning, waking up in the middle of the night and making more making more dough and throwing it away because it didn't come out the way you wanted. This day it came out good, and the next day it didn't come out so good, and that sort of thing. Like so, yes, the practicing took place at home.
So let's fast forward to, those share with us key initiatives that really helped get you to this launch stage, and I understand it's in many stores now.
Yes, yes, we're in around 80 stores at this time. Yes,
80 stores. Wow. That's
yeah,
impressive.
thank
That
you.
is that a lot of door knocking to go to different like to different companies, distributors? Like,
It starts off with the door knocking because nobody knows about your product, that sort of
mhm,
thing. Like it's also creating awareness. You're creating a new product, a new brand, and so thank God for social media, which is relatively inexpensive compared to other advertising.
mhm,
And COVID, you have to use the situations and circumstances for what they were, right? During COVID, especially the early days, a lot of people were fastened to their social media because they had nothing to do or nowhere to go. And so I wasn't on Instagram before this. I didn't really do a lot of social media, but you quickly gravitate towards that and try to spread the word as much as possible. Patties, as you know, a lot of people know patties, so it wasn't new from that
mhm.
perspective.
Right,
But
right.
people were intrigued by the different take on it because there are so many patty companies, but they're pretty much all the same in terms of make this, you may prefer this to that one, but nobody is saying we're different in any form or shape or way. And so by us coming out and saying we're using proper ingredients, we're using real ingredients, no artificial color, no artificial ingredients, no preservatives. Plus, we're having vegan options and that sort of thing. So people were intrigued. Oh, wow, this is different. It's a
Yeah.
different
I
spin. And
mean,
people gravitated towards that.
right, the minute you say like wholesome ingredients, those of us who are health conscious want to try that kind of product. That there's just that natural inclination of, yeah, you've done that for me. You've elevated it so that I can try it and feel safe that I'm doing something good for my family. Yeah.
Exactly. And there are a lot of people who are like that. The things we love as a child, as we grow older and become more conscious and aware, we kind of shun those food. And if we have it, it's more like a treat once a year or once every other year because we don't want to constantly eat those things. And so for a lot of people, this is exactly it. It was bringing back their nostalgic childhood love
Mhm.
and making it in a way that they can now eat it without feeling the guilt.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Cool. So so are you still doing it in a in a home way, or no, sorry. You with 80 stores, you've obviously elevated it to a facility, right?
Correct. So from very early in this stage, because I knew that I wanted to bring this to market, although I practiced a lot at home, I also immediately wanted to practice using in a commercial kitchen. And so there are these commercial kitchens that you can use and build your products, etc. So from very, very early stage in the game, two things I got. One was insurance. I was dealing with food. And so even before the company was formed, long before the company was formed, the minute I knew that I was going to be, and the second thing was to make sure that it was produced in a safe facility. So whilst the testing, etc., was done at home, the production, even the small production and so forth, because with these kitchens, you can rent it for as little as 4 hours per week or every other week or whatever it is. So I started using a commercial kitchen very early in the game. And I'll give you this joke. I remember when I went to the commercial kitchen, I was like so overwhelmed, right? These big equipment. I didn't even have a mixer in my home. And so I remember the owner was walking through and she said, "Oh, well, this is standard, that sort of thing. Like, and here is the mixer." And I saw the mixer and she said, "Look at that big thing. I would never be able to fill it." And she said, "Oh no, it's so easy. It's just like the one at home. You work it the same way." And I'm thinking to myself, if you only knew you're trusting me with your expensive equipment and I don't even have one of this at home. But yeah, I was so nervous going. And I mean, I had a friend go with me because I was just so intimidated by these huge equipment.
You talk about you got insurance right away. So all of a sudden I'm thinking, that's the previous entrepreneur owner who understands some parts of a business process. You needed safety. You knew that. You needed insurance. You may not know how to make the patty, but you have this passion for making this and to spread it around the world if the world wants a stush. But you understood that. How much of your journey has been the experience you had as a previous owner, and how much of it has been this newness, this novice, and how did you get that support?
That's a very good question, Hilda, because there are so many different types of business. So yes, that business sense was there. You could carry forward some of it, but it was also a very new industry. I knew
Mm,
nothing about the
yeah,
food
yeah,
industry. I knew nothing about the license. I knew nothing. So there was a lot to read up. I read up what was required, read up about labeling, read up about the licenses that is required. But yeah, the basics like insurance. I was coming from the home care industry where insurance was a big thing. And so I'm thinking I'm going into food. It's no less a big thing. And so that was the first thing that came to my mind. And again, from the home care industry, you're thinking about safety of your clients. Again, so safety was transferable. But besides learning the pattern of industry is so new, so different. And when I started, I didn't know that I wanted to be in stores. I knew that I wanted to spread patties, spread the Jamaican culture through food, through patties. And I also wanted to go as far as across Canada. But how I was going to do it was not how I'm doing it now. Initially, my thought was to sell directly to consumers because that's how patties are usually sold. But then COVID came, and you have, as an entrepreneur, whatever business, you have to learn to ride the waves. You have to learn to be
right, right,
flexible. You
yeah,
have to learn to pivot. And so when COVID came, of course, stores were closed. I didn't have a store yet. So the thought of looking for a store now was, put aside, especially with all the things that were happening. And when I finished the pilot, then the question became, okay, so how are you going to grow? How are you going to move forward? And that's when I decided that I was going to go to retail,
yeah, yeah. What would
meaning
you
going to
say
sell
is
through retail.
is
Yes.
the biggest challenge to date for you in building Stush Patty?
Hilda, I would say this. One thing I have learned, especially with this business, is that there will always be challenges. I'm not sure if I'm not sure if there is one that is bigger or not. As a business owner, one thing I have learned, and I don't think it was so obvious to me with my previous business, is that as a business owner, your job is to face challenges and overcome them. That's almost your sole job, right? It's not about building parties. It's because there are so many challenges. There are times when the challenges may not be so much, and you get a breather. But that breather is just to take on another challenge. So it has been one challenge after the other, whether it was learning to make patties, whether it was finding a facility, whether it's finding staff, whether it's taking it to market, branding. There's always going to be challenges. And which one is bigger than the other? It depends on the moment. Usually it's the most recent one that you remember.
Well, share any one of those challenges that you would like to to recall.
Well, the most recent challenge, and one of the big ones, is labor. As you perhaps know, there's a big shortage of labor now.
Oh
When we
yeah,
started during COVID, as I mentioned, people were displaced. A lot of people were at home. A lot of people weren't, and so finding labor wasn't as challenging because there are people from different walks of life. So, for example, we had people who were in the movie industry who were working with us, people who were security guards, different areas, just an interesting workplace because we're all such different backgrounds. As the place decided was opening up back, they were going back to their professions, which I knew from the start. But then came the intense labor shortage afterwards. So we
right.
have been struggling with finding labor for a few months now. You advertise, you do all the normal things, but it's just been very, very difficult to find labor. And it's not just within our sector, it's across board. And one that is really challenging.
Yeah, I noticed that, you don't think about it, but particularly in the retail and the hospitality industry, people say, there's more to life than this. And I don't have, I would rather go find something else. And suddenly the door is open because they've been pushed, and then they find something else, and then they're happy in that. So I can imagine that it's very difficult to find and keep good staff to do.
Yeah, one of the things that people don't realize, and I suppose this is coming from my former industry, is that with COVID, a lot of people retired. And a lot of people who were close to retirement decides I'm not going back to work, etc. So that was always coming. There was going to be a big shift in the workplace when that happened. It was brought forward with COVID. So that created a huge employment gap, and people are rising up into those spaces and all the other complications. But it is a real problem. People are talking about robots in restaurants now, as you mentioned, right? So the question
Mhm.
is, places are closing because of shortage of labor. So it is a very real problem.
What would you say is one of the successes that kind of s- steps that really push that ability to succeed that next level? What's one that you recall?
I will say that one of my biggest successes is the branding of the business. And knowing my market and being able to focus on my target market. We all hear this as business owners, knowing your market, but somewhere in the back of your mind, people usually think, well, everybody's going to like my products and my products are for everybody. They're not. And so knowing your market, being able to target your market, being consistent with your message, getting a brand out that will stand. So for me, it was important to realize I'm coming out with something new. I'm targeting people who don't remember patties, who haven't been using patties, who haven't seen patties in their grocery store. What is going to make me them see the product, amongst all the other things? What is going to make them take a second glance? And so branding was very important, and I think I have managed to successfully honed a brand along with the name, the colors, the image, the messages, all of those things, because branding is more than a logo. And I think we have a great logo, but it's more than a logo. It's more than colors. It's a message. It's how you make people feel as well. Yeah.
I remember in the early days of watching you on social media,
Mhm.
that the story of, I wanted a patty, but I couldn't find a wholesome one. So I started my own company. Great,
Mm.
great impact imaging. And then these colors that I see, the name of the company. I didn't know that Stush was a Jamaican word for, sort of a step up above, right? I forgot what you said, but that image, everything you've done sounds like it's well thought out and branding, and you're staying true to your message and determining that you need to find your right target audience. It's not for everybody, but you need to find that right target audience. I still remember the days when, you know, once you get to be a teenager, you start to meet other people, right? And then you get immersed in other cultures. And there was a fair sized Jamaican Chinese population. And I still remember the patties. They were a little bit greasy, but the flavors inside. So I'm so looking forward to my wholesome version of this. uh, we have I understand it, there's a Village Grocers that's a distributor. So we have one up the street, and I was going to pick one up yesterday, but I wasn't feeling well. So this weekend we're going to Village Grocer. We're getting our Stush Patties, and my
Very
daughter
nice.
will probably say, "Mom, can you buy some more of these?" Because I know the kind of food she likes, and
Mhm.
wholesome is what I like and she likes. So we're going to go get them. Where else are you, where else can people buy these in the retail stores right now?
Well, some of the stores in close to you, I'd probably say would be Sue's Market in Richmond Hill.
Hmm.
And then we also have yours conveniently in Aurora.
Okay. But you're not talking to me. I know where I can get mine. What about other people who are listening, and would like to get a patty?
Well, they're typically in small stores that sell quality products. So in Toronto, in the Pusat, there are some in coffee shops as well. We're sold in coffee shops. We can get single patties as well. So in the downtown corridor, we're in. Mississauga, we're in Hamilton, we're out all the way in Ottawa. So the best place to find, because there's so many stores, is to go on our website,
Right.
www.stushpatty.com, and look into the locator, put in your postal code, and you can find a location close to you.
That's true. That's how I found out. I thought, oh, it's just down the street. I'm going to go
Yeah.
get my patties.
Yes.
Um, so is there anything that has happened to you in your journey, in this journey, that was just an unexpected surprise, positive or negative?
I think for me, the unexpected surprise is the level of support that I have received. And I've always known that patties were known and so forth, but to see the warmth and the connection. I remember going to a store and the owner was there and you could just see him got lost. He was just so enthralled by patties. He was just there reminiscing about his childhood days and patties. And so just seeing how emotionally connected people are to patties just from their childhood. But what's been very important to me is the amount of support that I've gotten, Hilda. People have reached out, helped, connected with me with other people, helped with my branding, helped in so many different ways. Sometimes people come to me and say, okay, I think you can get into this store. Let me introduce you. Or here is a store that I want to see you in. Or here is an event that I think you should do. I mean, people have just been reaching out and being oh so supportive, whether they've tried the patties or not. It's just, I think, bringing to people such nostalgic, some such warmth, such friendliness that they've all reached out, and it's just being amazing. Sometimes it's overwhelming, and I so much want to succeed for these people who support it, who are supporting me and believe in me and believe in the product.
I remember when when my husband and I had our engineering company, and I would chat with the staff, and it seemed like every time we have a holiday, like I know my traditions, I know the comfort foods that we have, at
Mhm.
Thanksgiving or Thanksgiving or Christmas. And what became a theme for me was we all, as families or friends, get together during a long weekend or a holiday, and food is the the part of the event that really brings that sense of community. So patties will be a way of connecting people and memories, past, present, and future. And food is that joining together for that sense of community.
Yes, yes. And one of the things too, when I started, as I mentioned, is that I've questioned why is it we don't see patties more whole, in other places at
Yeah,
functions and
yeah.
so forth. And since I've done this, patties have been served at company functions. There are companies who order our patties. Patties have been served at weddings. Patties have been ordered by caterers. And so for me, patties have been given as Christmas presents. And so it's just amazing to see in such a short time exactly how I envisioned it to be. When I started, I was having patties for dinner. My friends would laugh at me. Who have patties for dinner? Who have patties with a glass of wine? They're now sold in stores that serve them with beer or wine, and people are having them exactly how I envisioned. So that is also a major success. That exactly how I envisioned that people are having them, having friends over, having. I have people who have had patty parties. They invite friends over and all they serve is patties. It's just so easy and there's such a wide variety that there is something for everybody. And so that has been an amazing success for me as well and a very warm feeling.
The joy that I see and hear as you're talking about that, it's amazing. It sounds like the idea and the testing happened about 2 years ago. So
Mm,
2 years later, that beautiful vision you had has come to fruition, and it will continue. And as you say, there'll be those ups and downs, but to hear this vision for you, and to know you when you were in the home care business, because the home care business is a different industry, and it's about giving care, and often care to people during a time of need, and it may not be a happy situation that creates that need. Stush, however, can be a happy time of fun
it
where people
is.
get together. It could also be a sad time as well, if it's a funeral or something like that. Share one piece of advice, Opal, that you would tell your younger self.
take more risk and take them early. I think growing up, we tend to be so, especially from our background, you tend to be so focused on what you want and really want to get to and following that line, etc. But risk taking is just not encouraged to a large extent.
Mhm.
I think today's generation is a little bit more different where that is concerned. But I would definitely take more risk much more earlier. Life is short, right? And why play it safe all along? And so that's what I would tell my younger self because having a business is risky. And that's why most people don't do it as well, right? It has its ups and downs, it's
Yeah.
hard, but it's risk. But I think, just go for the ride. Go for the ride.
Well, I think, I always say, you know, when you're in business, find something that you love to do. Like don't pick a thing because, oh, I think I can make money with this, right?
No.
Because when the tough happens and you think, oh God, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
If you're doing something that you're passionate about, you can
Yes.
ride that wave. But if you're doing something because you think you for other motives other than the pure joy and love of it, it's gonna get
Bad,
you.
it's gonna win.
3 years
It's
down the
gonna
line, you'll say, "Hey, I just got a new job," and going, "Yeah, obviously we understand what happened to your journey."
Yes,
What would be
yes.
the one piece of advice you would give to other entrepreneurs who are embarking or on their journey of building their businesses?
Entrepreneurship is a lonely road and it can get you down. So, one advice I'd give them is to share network with other entrepreneurs. And by networking, I'm not necessarily talking about a formal network meeting. Connect with people through LinkedIn and be open. The buck stops with you, but you need people to bounce things off. Sometimes just talking about it loudly, if the person doesn't know or doesn't have any advice, the answers will come to you just by talking about it aloud, right? And so, yeah, I would definitely say network with people because it is a lonely road. Find people that encourage you, people who are positive, be around people who are positive. Be careful of your energy because you need energy to do this and to survive. So, shed anything negative. Don't be around things that are negative that's going to pull you down or tear you down or divert your energy, but be surrounded by positive energy, bright people. Surround yourself with other entrepreneurs as well.
Such great advice because negative energy really is draining. Positive energy is really uplifting. And the more you have it and the more you surround yourself with people who have that, the better off you are in just continuing to be that entrepreneur. And it is tough. It has its ups and it has its downs. Um,
Yes.
what's the legacy that you want to leave in life?
You know, I have to a large extent, as you know, been involved in charity, and I still want to be able to give back. I want to be known as the person who has supported communities, supported the less fortunate, bring joy to people through food, help to spread our culture. So I want to be somebody who basically leave people in a better stead, make people believe in themselves, believe the impossible can be possible. And that's what I want to do. I really want to encourage and motivate people to do their best and to be their best and just be there for those who are less fortunate.
We haven't talked about your volunteer um, work. Let's share a little bit more about that.
Well, as
I
you know,
think it's
especially,
important as entrepreneurs. There's a sense of building your business, but really a sense of belonging to your community, whether it's your industry community or your geographical community. What kind of volunteer work do you do, Opal?
well, I remember when I started my previous business, that's when I decided to start taking up volunteerism. Not perhaps in the right time to most people, but business was so stressful, so difficult. And so I thought that instead of always focusing on me and my challenges, I wanted to give back to people who were less fortunate. And so both started at the same time because I wanted something to take me away from my business and my challenges, and people were having other types of challenges. So some of the things that I did was to volunteer with Cancer Society. I volunteered with hospices. As you perhaps remember, I raised funds for the hospitals in your region, that sort of thing. Like, of course, then COVID, and of course, most of those volunteer work kind of died down. But when I started with food, then I remember, especially again, youth without shelter, people who are not fortunate to have a home or to have food. And so, one of the first things I started to do was donating food and patties to shelters where youths are. When youth, and we all know youth love patties, right? And so, yes, I take patties, I still do, to youth shelters. We give to the homeless. We took meals and so forth to the homeless. We also focus on females who have challenges, who are homeless, who are in difficult situations. And we have been helping to feed them in shelters as well.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. What's coming up next for you? What's coming up next?
So we are in 80 stores so far. It seems like a lot, but Ontario is a big place, and so is Canada. So our aim is to saturate Ontario and, more importantly, go across Canada. Vegan patties are almost non-existent, and we're beginning so much demand for our patties across Canada. And so our aim is to get our patties out there, especially the vegan ones, so vegans can have their patties again.
Yay! How do people get a hold of you, Opal?
We can be found. We're very active on social media. And so whether Instagram or Facebook, our handle is at Stush Patty. And our website is Stush Patty. So www.stushpatty.com.
Well, thank you very much for joining me today and our guest listeners and subscribers. I really appreciate you sharing this dream that you had and seeing how it has come to life for you and the vision that you imagined, that you can see it now. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me, Hilda. It's my pleasure. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. And to those of you who are listening or watching our YouTube, thank you for joining us and for listening to interesting people whose success and struggles along the way they're sharing with you, whether they were an entrepreneur, a business leader, or an HR professional. Thank you for tuning in to Rev Up Your Potential with Hilda Gann. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our podcast on YouTube and Spotify to stay up to date on our latest episodes. For HR tips, news, and strategies, or if you're interested in being a guest on our podcast, visit our website at peoplebrightconsulting.com.